What's up, guys? It's your favorite handsome, wealthy, and just better than you entrepreneur on the planet. And today we're going to be talking about weird habits which actually kept me broke and lazy and retarded for the longest time. And knowing this information would have saved me fucking not even months, but years on my journey. So the way I'm going to do this is the higher I place a habit in this tier list, the more it kept me retarded, the more I wish I hadn't done it that much. Starting off with Brian Johnson, and by Brian Johnson I mean health maxing. So you know these people who are constantly on top of their sleep, they get 8-9 hours every single day, never eat anything unhealthy, and this is a bit retarded. Now obviously you need to get good sleep, you need to get in a good healthy state to be able to function long term. This narrative that entrepreneurs and high achievers push, that I never sleep, I just grind all day, is stupid, okay? There's no excuse for it. You will never build anything worthwhile if you never ever sleep and you never ever give your body and your mind time to recalibrate. However, when you're young and your biggest lever is working, you can't be pussying out of a day's worth of work just because you only slept like 6.5 hours. You can take the loss of not sleeping that much. You can take the loss of, ordering takeaway here and there because you don't have time to cook. Although I'm very glad that I'm healthy and I'm very happy for myself that I'm in the state that I'm in, I feel like I would have made much more progress if I kind of didn't give that much of a fuck early on. And for this reason, this goes into B tier. The next one is probably the most obvious one. This is social media. This goes straight to S tier. There is literally no fathomable reason for you to go onto social media. If you imagine like a range of emotions, and I know it's not like a fucking linear spectrum, but let's say you have 12 emotions that you can feel. Social media literally does that. You feel anger, then you go on to, oh, it's a cute cat, you feel kind of fuzzy and warm inside, then you see a relationship reel, and then you're like, damn, I feel lonely, and it literally takes you through every single emotion there is in a matter of 5 minutes. It fucks up your mind, it makes you compare yourself to others, it makes you crave these feelings which aren't even yours, it gives you a bunch of desires which don't even really appeal to you, and it fucks up your dopamine. It literally damages every aspect of your human psyche. It's just a cancer and you should do everything in your power to avoid it. Don't even check your messages. If you have to, only check it for like 2 minutes a day and actually stop scrolling. Don't get yourself into this doom scrolling cycle. And yeah, just don't do this. I regret every single minute I've spent on social media. I know it's cliche, but it's the truth. Next up we have drinking water. Let me explain a story why I have this here. Otherwise it would be very, very misleading. So back in the day when I was starting off in entrepreneurship and I was only making like a few thousand per month, I had a friend who was making like 70k, and he told me that he drinks 5 liters every single day, and I kind of brushed it off like, yeah, I've heard that before, it must be cool, it flushes out your system, whatnot. But then I saw him post another one and make a post where that's one of the first things he started with, how much he drinks, how much water he drinks. And then, I saw this other guy online talk about how much water they drink, and I was like, there must be something up with this water thing. And I started drinking water, and long story short, what ends up happening is you stop tracking for the right fucking metrics. So you might have someone who drinks a lot of water, but they didn't succeed because they drink a lot of water. That might be like 1% of their success. Now, I've got a bit smart and a bit more educated since then. Physiologically, you won't really experience any benefits, if at all, past like 2 to 3 liters per day. Furthermore, judging yourself by the kind of habits you do when they don't drive growth directly is one of the stupidest things you can do. What I mean by this is, whatever your goal is, you usually have one task which makes you better at it. If it's getting better at a sport, then practicing the sport. If it's doing like entrepreneurship, then working. And there's a bunch of habits which like kind of help you. Maybe it makes you smarter, maybe it makes you sharper, maybe it makes you more energized, but there are these kind of catalyst habits which are kind of cool to do. Bad thing about these though is that once you go full on self-improvement mode and you buy too much into this message of, oh yeah, just, go gym, cold shower, eat clean, drink a lot of water, you start judging yourself by doing these activities. And there's this typical stereotype of person who goes to the gym, who does their cold shower, who eats clean, who drinks their water, and they think they had a good day, when the thing that actually matters is the fucking work. Nothing else matters. The reason you do these kind of secondary tasks is to make you more likely or sharper when you do the first one. But they just don't do the first one because they're too busy coping and saying that they're productive by doing these. Now, these, of course, are not bad by themselves, but I fell into the trap, like a lot of people I think who are watching this, that I start judging myself based on these secondary habits. People give me this asinine advice to drink like 5 liters of water a day when that's nowhere near why they got rich. And this goes for every single habit that you kind of tunnel vision on that isn't directly getting you closer to your goals. This shit is nice, yes, but stop focusing in on it. This is the thing that will actually make you rich. Next up, we have athleticism. So what I mean by athleticism is, doing a lot of sports and going to the gym and doing yoga and this kind of stuff. This has been amazing for me. And I had this kind of monk mode phase just over 2 years ago, actually no, just under 2 years ago, about 20 months ago, when I actually dropped doing sports. I went to the gym much less, I did no sports whatsoever, and what I found was my life fell apart almost linearly. So if you can imagine how I have this graph of me doing sports and it goes down, my progress in business kind of followed, like 2 months later, but it followed the exact same pattern. For me, every single time I stopped doing sports, I stopped doing, physical exercise and this kind of stuff, my life always followed in the same exact way. Whenever my body is not tired at night, I can't fall asleep. I start overthinking more. Whenever I am unhealthier, because I'm not, sweating as much and I'm not burning as many calories, I start thinking slower. And all of these second order or third order or fourth order consequences start catching up with me, and I feel it. Maybe it's a month after, maybe it's 2 months after, but it always ends up being like seen and felt. And for this reason, whenever I'm going full autist, monk mode, locking in mode, I never ever sacrifice athleticism, at least not to the point where I actually get rid of all of my stuff. I always keep at least like 4 trainings a week. So I'm going to put this into detail because of course you can overdo it, but this is not something, at least in my experience, that is worth sacrificing. Next up we have football, which is a very, very interesting one because, a lot of people give you the advice to stop watching TV, stop watching football, you have another man's name on your back if you wear a jersey, and how gay is that? But I wholeheartedly disagree because I really like football. If you can imagine my personality, let's say this is my personality and it has X, Y, and Z inside of here, what ends up happening is once you get into a space on social media or just any kind of community, you get a lot of information. So let's say this is your phone, you're watching Instagram and you're getting, these typical high value man reels. You get like information put into your psyche. You want to be A now. Let's say A is like, you want to wear these kind of smart tailored shirts. You want to be in the Dubai penthouse and you want this kind of stuff. And you get A and B and C desires into your brain. And this happens to us much more than we'd like to admit. I was watching some guy in the gym do like these levers and human flags and shit, and I was like, damn, the calisthenics, he's all the girls are looking at him and he's so cool. And I even looked up like a few videos when I got home about how to get into calisthenics. And then like a week later, I realized like, what the fuck am I doing this for? I never was interested in calisthenics. I don't really care about it whatsoever. Why the fuck am I looking into calisthenics now? It's not a goal of mine and it never was. I just got a bit jealous and that negative emotion made me pursue a different goal. Now for me personally, this football thing was always an authentic desire of mine. I've always really loved playing football. I've loved watching it. My dad used to watch it with me and take me to stadiums when I was a kid. I really have a passion for it and that's an innate desire of mine. How stupid would it be for me to listen to XYZ influencer who doesn't even know me, to who they're saying, oh, football's so degenerate, stop watching other people on your TV. I'm just like, I fucking like it. It's 1.5 hours a week. It's not going to make or break my success. Shut the fuck up. So anything like this, any weird niche hobby you have, just because someone online is telling you that it's stupid, you can critically think about it. Maybe it is stupid. Maybe it's wasting like 20 hours a week. But most of the time, it's just some niche thing in the background that isn't realistically ruining your success. Why would I strip away this part of my personality? And for this reason, I'm going to place it into D tier because yes, just like athleticism, this can also be taken, out of context, and I can start playing football too much and I can start wasting time on it. But for the most part, stuff like this, these niche hobbies you have, for example, for me, it's football and music and shit like this, they're not gonna really get in the way of my success as long as I have like 20 IQ about it. Next up, we have waking up early. There's literally no science to suggest that there's any benefit of waking up early. The only thing that there is literally just psychological boosts. You can wake up and you can be like, no one's around, only thing I can do is work and I'm getting ahead of everyone else. That's pretty much it. That said, as someone who's more of a night owl, I tend to, stay up later. Whenever I dial back my sleep routine, I feel like my circadian rhythm, my body clock is more aligned and I do feel like I get more quality sleep, but this alone won't really make or break any of your success. If you have a routine that's working for you and you feel just fine, don't change it. Please, for the love of God, don't change it. Nothing scientific says that you must. I personally changed it back in the day and it made me stupid because I was trying to force waking up at 5 a.m. just because some guru told me to, when I had a perfectly fine routine waking up at like 7:30. For that reason, I'm going to put it into C. Next up, we have friends. A lot of your friends, if you think about how you met them by chance. And this was a super hard pill to swallow for me, but I came around in the end. Even if you have like 30 people in your class, and let's say you're friends with your ex-high school classmates, even within those 30 people, you're probably not really going to be the exact match to a personality type to even one, if we're being 100% honest. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't even try. You should disqualify all of them. But you should really keep in mind that you kind of have this random number generator working in the back of your life, essentially, that's giving you these decisions, and you're rolling with them like as if they were your own, when they're clearly not. You just happen to sit next to this person in the first class. You just happen to do drugs with this person. If you removed all of these substances and stuff, would you still be friends with them? Would you still really just like the way that person thinks? Would you be aligned with their values? Those are the questions that are really important to answer. And for a long time, I didn't do these, and they kept me really retarded. Now, with that said, you don't really want to cut off all your friends. One thing I like to do is I like to qualify them into 3 tiers. So you have friends, you have mates, and you have acquaintances. Friends are the people who you actually really like. You actually like how they think, you actually like their values, you feel really aligned with them, and you feel like you can trust them no matter what. There's very few of these. For me, I would maybe put like 3 people into this camp, maybe 4. Most people I think have less than 3, and I think that's totally fine. Then you have your mates, who are like people who you kind of have as your friends right now, probably. But if you're being honest, you wouldn't really trust them with many things. They're constantly late, they're constantly failing on their promises, and they don't really care about you that much. You know, if you were in some trouble, maybe they would help out, but you can't entirely rely on them, if you're being honest. This is totally fine. You can meet up with them, you can have fun with them at parties, etc., etc., but don't over-invest into these people. That's my biggest problem, is that I constantly tried to make my mates my friends, and I constantly kept investing into these relationships despite getting nothing back. I had very different goals, and I let them sway me and let them talk me into, you're too extreme, stop working so much, have some fun with us. And it really did hold me down. No offense to them. I'm sure they're living ideally in their life. Well, probably not, to be honest, but whatever. But it really kept me down. That's the point. And acquaintances is like the people who you kind of know them, and that's as far as it goes. Maybe you can have a few laughs with them at parties, etc. But these are like, friends of friends, people who you kind of met, but you're not really that close to them. Maybe just try, if you just never really thought of this concept before, maybe try downgrading a few people who you would consider your friends into mates or even acquaintances, because it will give you so much like mental real estate once you actually make this change. So with that said, I really think a few friends is necessary, but also if you keep too many, especially people you don't really align with, if you're being honest, it is going to hold you back quite a bit. So this goes into B tier for that reason. Next up, we have Google Calendar, or just over-systemizing your life. And this is a big thing for me, because for the most part, I never had any systems in my life. And once I started using Google Calendar, I time blocked everything in my day. The biggest problem with that was that I didn't even know how I want it to work. I was doing all these chronotype tests and all these ultradian rhythm tests, and I didn't even know when I worked the best. I didn't even know when I slept the best. I didn't even know anything about myself. And having these very specific time blocks only increased my anxiety. I have to finish this task in the next 5 minutes. I have to be here. I have to be there. And when I failed to do those, when I, would finish my work in time, or when I, did my fun stuff for 1 hour longer than I should have, I felt immense guilt, and it only put me into negative frequency, which only led to even more bad decisions. So although having a system, having a schedule is a really important part of life, and I really do think that if you can get your Google Calendar and your time management skills on top, you're going to crush. Having this over-systemized kind of life, especially if you're someone like me who values freedom, is going to be an Achilles heel for you. The way I would go about it nowadays is I would list myself a few tasks, maybe 1 or 2 time blocks, but most of my calendar I would just leave empty, especially if you're in a good state of mind and you feel like you're smart enough to be able to trust yourself. There's really no reason to do this. So this one is going to go into C. So finally we have ChatGPT. There's a bunch of studies that measure like, your brain activity goes down when you use ChatGPT and this and that and this kind of stuff. How many people actually fucking use ChatGPT all day? If you actually look at all the seconds in a day and you measure how long you're using ChatGPT for, it's less than 1% of the day. People say, your brains are rotting away because you're using ChatGPT. I would like to see some science on that, because every single scientific paper only measures it for these kind of, fractions when you're actually using the app. Of course, like if you had to research on Google if the ingredients of your protein powder are carcinogenic or not, you'd have to waste more time and use more of your brain power. But I see it as a blessing. Of course, again, long term, you don't want to just use ChatGPT and have your brain not work all day. But if you can get an answer in a simpler, more cost-efficient way, why the fuck wouldn't you? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. All these people bashing AI, of course, if you overuse it and you stop thinking for yourself, you're going to be stupid. The AI kind of, in a funny way, caters to you. It's a software business, right? It wants you to stay on their platform, so it's obviously going to give you the answers you want to hear. So as long as you use it in moderation, it's more of a superpower. It can keep you stupid and broke. There was a time when I was talking to it every day and for like 10 minutes, and I actually started getting answers that I wanted to hear, and it just sent me in this kind of loop of I thought I was getting like critically thought through advice, but I was just getting like an echo chamber, which isn't like a good place to be. But again, as long as you're not stupid about it, it really shouldn't hinder your growth much, and it shouldn't make you lazy and retarded. So I'm going to put it into C tier.